A major winter storm is currently impacting the higher elevations of the West Coast, and we could see that significant winter storm move into the northern Midwest and bring over a foot of snow and potentially up to 2 feet of snow in some localized areas. And associated with that same storm system, we could see a major severe weather threat throughout the southeast, where we could see large hail, damaging winds, and the possibility of tornadoes. So now let's take a look at what the computer models are forecasting over the next several hours. So eventually the snow should move into Utah and Colorado by the early Sunday timeframe as we approach 2023, and we do see that there's very heavy snow going on in the higher elevations of California, and we do see that around the early to mid day on Sunday, we should see the heavy rain eventually move into Los Angeles and San Diego. So you want to watch out for the possibility of heavy rain in those areas and some localized flooding in the more vulnerable areas. And if I were to continue to move forward with the forecast, we do see that by the early Monday timeframe, we're beginning to see the storm system take shape here right between the border of Colorado and Utah, where we do see that this storm is eventually going to encounter a very unstable environment. The temperatures are much warmer than average right along the eastern half of the United States, and that cold air that's just to the west of this trough will eventually interact with this very warm and moist environment located in the southeast that's pretty much being pushed by a strong southerly flow that's bringing that warmer, moist air mass from the Gulf of Mexico further northward. Once those two air masses interact, we're going to see a highly unstable environment for not only a significant snowstorm to develop around the northern Midwest, impacting the northern portion of Nebraska and South Dakota, but a severe weather threat to develop in the southeast, where of course we could see tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds. And we see that by the early Monday timeframe, this is when you should expect a heavy snow throughout northern Nebraska, the southern portion of South Dakota, and we do see heavy snow right around the Denver area, where you could experience 3 to 6 inches, and in some areas of South Dakota and the extreme northern portion of Nebraska, you could experience over a foot of snow, as the current forecast is leaning towards bringing 12 to 18 inches of snow over a large area of South Dakota and the southern portion of Minnesota. And if I were to continue to move forward, we really begin to see the low pressure system take shape here and really intensify as a result of the instability, and we are seeing those extremely heavy rain bands that are developing right around the southeast, where some of these thunder showers of course have the possibility or will likely be considered severe as a result of how unstable the air is right around the midsection of the country. And we should see strong enough wind shear for the possibility of tornadoes to arise out of these thunderstorms. So you need to stay prepared in case you might be under a tornado warning in the southeast. And if I were to look a little bit further northward, we do see heavy snow bands develop, and in terms of certainty of how much snow you should expect and who exactly will receive the heaviest snowfall, it's pretty much inevitable at this point the northern Midwest will experience a significant snowstorm, and it's pretty likely who will it's pretty certain at this point who will experience the heaviest snowfall, as both the European model and the GFS model are in really good agreement at this point regarding the exact location the heaviest snow will fall, as it seems like there's going to be just enough ridging to the point where the low pressure system should lean more to what the European model has been depicting over the past several days, which is taking a storm system a little bit further southward. And we do see that the snow will eventually move into the Minneapolis area by the evening time on Monday, where we do see heavy snow bands begin to develop as a result of this low pressure system rapidly intensifying. And we do see that as this storm continues to move northward, we see it intensify even further, dropping down to 993 millibars when it comes to its strength. And we do see very heavy snow bands right around South Dakota and some portion of Minnesota, so you want to pay very close attention to that. And we see heavy rain right around the Great Lakes as well, so you want to pay very close attention to that. And right behind this storm system, as we approach a Tuesday and Wednesday time frame, temperatures should be colder than average, which will likely lead to a colder pattern to develop right around the eastern half of the United States, thanks to a strong northwesterly flow that this low pressure system is bringing to the United States. So you want to pay very very close attention to that in the northeast, that maybe there could be that enhanced risk of snowfall thanks to the fact that temperatures will be colder than average. We do see that there might be a small clipper system moving through the Midwest as we approach the weekend of next week, but we're going to need to wait and see if this forecast, if the European model maintains this forecast, because there's still a lot of days to really see if this low pressure system will end up developing. Really all depends on how much instability will be behind this low pressure system, but at this point you need to prepare for a major significant snowstorm for the northern Midwest and severe weather threat for the southeast, where there's going to be just enough instability, convective available potential energy to create the possibility of a major severe weather threat. Here is the amount of snowfall the European model is expecting, and the European model is expecting a large area of 12 to 18 inches of snow, pretty much between the city of Minneapolis all the way as far south as the northern portion of Nebraska. So this is a very large area where you could experience over a foot of snow, and we do see a large area as well of 6 to 12 inches, even extending as far to the northeast as Wisconsin and portions of Michigan. And we do see that this should be a very significant snowstorm for the northern Midwest, and the GFS model also is in pretty good agreement with what the European model is stating at this time. This is a GFS's model's forecast when it comes to snowfall, and we do see also a very large area of 6 to 12 inches of snow, pretty much in the exact same areas that the European model is forecasting. The GFS model is still leading towards bringing the snowfall slightly a little bit more northward, but for the most part, all the same areas are experiencing very heavy snowfall in this scenario, where a large area of the Midwest, South Dakota, Minnesota, and Nebraska is still experiencing over a foot of snow in the GFS's model scenario. So more likely than not, a foot of snow should be expected for much of the northern United States. And here are the convective available potential energy levels in the southeast as we approach the January 2nd timeframe, and we do see that the convective available potential energy levels should be bordering around 2,000 joules per kilogram, which is considered very high. There's a lot of convection going on, and that will likely lead to a major risk of severe weather, where of course air pressure as a result of this much convection will be very low on the surface, so damaging winds are likely, and we should see large hail thanks to how strong the updrafts will be with convective available potential energy levels like this. That's going to force a lot of that rain further upward into the atmosphere, freeze, and then of course fall in the form of hail. So you want to pay very close attention to that in the southeast, and of course the wind shear will be very strong as well, which will lead to a high possibility of tornadoes associated with this severe weather outbreak. So you want to pay very close attention to that. So here's my forecast when it comes to the amount of snowfall you should expect in the northern Midwest, and where you should expect the worst of the severe weather, as well as a cold pattern that's expected to build right around the northeast. So in the northern Midwest, you should expect around 12 to 24 inches of snow right in between the southwestern portion of Minnesota, as well as the southeastern portion of South Dakota, the northern portion of Nebraska. You should expect over a foot of snow, as it seems like you're going to experience snow bands that are heavy at times, and road conditions should be completely dangerous. So don't go out unless it's an extreme emergency. 6 to 12 inches just to the outside of the area of 12 to 24 inches, and 6 to 12 inches is still considered a major snowstorm. So you want to pay very close attention to that. This includes Minneapolis, and this includes Wyoming as well. Denver should experience maybe around 3 to 6 inches, but still could cause havoc on the roadways. And then this is where you should expect the worst of the severe weather, as it's pretty likely at this point these same that the areas that I've shown in this map will experience the heaviest snowfall, at least in the darker purples, and you should experience a major severe weather threat, as it's very likely at this point, as it seems like both of the computer models are leaning towards bringing a high level of instability right around the southeast as we approach the January 2nd timeframe. So make sure to prepare for the possibility of large hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes, and a cold pattern is likely after this storm system moves through as a result of a strong northerly wind component that's going to be associated with this storm system that could maybe enhance the chance of snowfall as we approach next week. But I'll keep you guys updated. But anyways, guys, I thank you guys for watching, and make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content.